Hi, everyone. I have such a great guest for you today. So many of you are interested in networking. You've heard a lot about it, but you probably don't know the real way to do it and what it really means. Well, I've got the authority on this today, and she is Diane Darling. She really does know the value of relationships and how to build them. She's the author of McGraw Hill's definitive book on networking, The Networking Survival Guide. She speaks and trains thousands of people each year on ways to build relationships leading to opportunities and growth. And she believes now more than ever in today's fast paced competitive world, anyone can leapfrog their way to successful relationships once they master the art of networking. So, again, my guest is Diane Darling. And I love your name, Diane. What a great name. I
You
just think
know,
it's fantastic.
Thank you. It's so funny. Growing up, I really didn't like it, and
Well, of course not. That's the way it
no,
goes.
that's what you do when you grow up, right?
Right.
But now it's amazing how many people think it's my stage name, and I'm like, no, I was born with it. But it's fascinating how many people actually I meet have different names, and I think in some cases it totally. I remember recently learning that Ralph Lauren's real name. Do you know what his real name is?
I saw it, but I can't remember it.
It's Ralph Lipschitz. What are you wearing? Ralph Lipschitz. Well, no wonder he changed his name.
Oh, well, I had a chain of career schools, and one of my students was named Merry Christmas.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I asked her how she felt about that, and she was all happy about it, But that's quite a name, Merry Christmas. So,
That's a tough one. I'll take mine any day. I'll take mine any day.
so getting back to this networking because it's such a hot topic, and there's so many pros and cons. What are some frequent mistakes that business owners make?
I think one of the biggest mistakes they make is they don't understand what it is. And if I would say to 10 people, what do you think about networking? They would probably envision either a cocktail party with somebody overserved or perhaps a business event with sexist as it may be, more men than women. Some of the men playing imaginary golf because they like to kind of have this imaginary golf game where they pretend like they're swinging and a golf is a conversation. Or it would be a fundraiser sort of a thing. Very few people understand that really what networking is. I have two definitions. One, it's building relationships before you need them. And two, it is the transference of trust. So, for example, I have just booked a speaker for an event in June. I have met him, but I have not done business with him before. But I'm trusting the person who introduced us. Now, I have seen this person professionally do their thing. But, I'm assuming they're going to be easy to work with. They'll show up. We're not going to have any drama or craziness sort of a thing. And so I defer to my friend's relationship because she says he's great. And so we'll work together.
Well, that's true. I mean, trust is very important, and of course, not being a prima donna is very important. I know that when I was really hot in my speaking career, I mean, I was just booked all the time. I think I was doing like 150 programs a year, and people said to me, "How do you do?" And I said, "I don't. I'm not a prima donna." I mean, when I was supposed to be there, I was there. When they asked me to send my materials, they were sent. When I went to dinner, I didn't, get the most expensive thing and charge everything. I mean, they told me horror stories of speakers that had ordered bottles of wine and this and that and the other. And I mean, I just thought it was amazing because it never even occurred to me to do that. But that could have been too because I didn't drink. But the thing would be is exactly what you said: trust and coming through and being a real person. But you also say that networking has changed. So how has it changed?
Well, I think networking has changed. It's kind of gone back to what it originally was. There was a funny thing on Facebook about, the old Facebook was the old security was the grandmothers looking over to the balcony knowing what's going on. That was the original surveillance system. No. I think what's happened is that originally, before technology, you went to the neighbors and said, "Hey, I'm making a salad and I didn't get any tomatoes. Any chance I can borrow two and I'll bring them back to you." And that was being kind to, and the neighbor said, "Sure, no problem. I'll give you a couple tomatoes." And then a couple days later, the person brings the tomatoes. It's all good. And it was looking out for each other, just to be neighborly, to be kind, to be a part of a community. Then this thing called the internet came around, and all of a sudden we have zillions of friends, but we don't have relationships. We don't have connections. And yet we have a false sense of, oh, well, I can talk to that person because I know them on Twitter, you know. Now, I went to a conference yesterday. Keynote speakers were phenomenal. Gina Davis was one of them. Anita Hill was a third. The young lady who played Ugly Betty was the closing speaker. And it was really interesting because there was one gentleman was doing a breakout, and I tweeted him ahead of time and said, "I'll hope to say hello." Well, at one point I saw him at the book signing. He was by himself, and I just went, we've been tweeting and just thought I'd say hello. Well, so that's when you leverage technology to then meet in person. But I wouldn't ask for money. I wouldn't say, can I stay at your house when I'm in Atlanta? I mean, part of it is understanding the parameters around these online relationships. But in some cases, there's actually a fair amount of depression. There's a fair amount of anxiety, that you have a false sense of connection, but you also are feeling very disconnected. And so I think in some cases, what we're realizing is that, yeah, we can do everything online, but at the end of the day, we still are social beings. We still are interconnected people. And the value of being around other people is very important. And to not underestimate that, and then also to figure out how to make that work for people who maybe you're not the chattiest person in the room. At the conference where you and I met, after a certain amount of time, I just was spent. And I just went out to the pool by myself in a cabana. Little did I know I could pull those curtains and zip it, or I would have. But I was just depleted. And so I test as an introvert. I'm a very friendly introvert because I come from small town Midwest America. I say hi to people. I'm nice to them. I'm kind to them. But it does deplete me. So there's a certain amount of time when I just need to network with my remote control or my cat or, my eyelids and just take a break.
Well, I know what you're saying. And of course, it reminds me of that commercial where the daughter says to the mother, "You don't have any friends and you need friends." And she says, "I have 17 friends, on her Facebook page." And the mother says, "Well, I don't have any, but I'm fine." And then the mother goes out and she's got three or four people around her who are all going out to lunch and having a wonderful time. And the daughter is sitting on a bed alone with her 17 friends
Yeah.
online. So it is that way. But, business wise, LinkedIn is the preferred connection. In other words, yeah, we got Facebook, we got Instagram, we've got all those things, got Twitter. But LinkedIn is the choice for business. So, what are some of the best ways for people to leverage LinkedIn?
Well, one, you need to be on it and you need to be active. And so I actually have a reminder email I send to people once a quarter just to remind them to update, even if it's just 4 times a year. Now, mind you, I'm camped on LinkedIn all the time. But I recommend that you have a picture that actually looks like you. Sometimes I meet people and I'm thinking, wow, are you in the witness protection program? Because you look nothing like your LinkedIn picture. And I'm mindful that people age and they gain weight and, go bald and all kinds of different things happen to us in life. However, you want the person to feel safe that when they're meeting you. One. Two, a description of what you do. And have a summary. So a lot of people jump right into their experience. Have a summary at the top. And the summary should be written in first person. And it should be like you and I are having a conversation. So I wouldn't be in the third person through this whole conversation. Well, Diane says, "Gail, you should do this." And Diane says this. It's I say this. And it's my opinion, it's my perspective, it's my expertise, it's what I know because of what I read and continue to stay up to date about it. So I like to read things that are in the first person. What's the problem that you solve for me? Who do you help? What's some of your credibility? Now, because LinkedIn has changed so many of their not the platform, but just the layout, I have put at the top of my summary my phone number and my email. So right away, above the fold, if you will, on the screen, someone can figure out how to get hold of me by text, email, or phone. And part of, talking about the prima donna conversation, are you easy to work with? Are you easy to find? And so these are some things that I think are really important for people to message very quickly, on their LinkedIn. I then, of course, look and see who we know in common. I look for other, similarities as far as groups, interests, that sort of a thing. So I think that I consider the LinkedIn your online business card that's organic. It's changing all the time. And so you change something today and you can change it. You don't have to go out print. It's not a project. It can be done in a few minutes, and do it that way. So you can really have fun finding a way to stay in touch with people. And do it. And then I would encourage people on Friday. I'm spending the day with an attorney. We're going to do a deep dive coaching session, and the assignment is to download all of your LinkedIn contacts, and then we're going to parse them out. Who has he been in touch with? When was the last time? Who does he owe a call to? When was the last time he helped this person? When was the last time he gave this person a referral? And so the first part we're going to do in his sessions is to do a lot of outreach to help other people before he starts asking for himself.
So, what do you think you should do yourself and what should you outsource?
It depends on cash. If you have money, I would outsource as much as you possibly can. Now, I do all my own handwritten thank you notes. I do not outsource that. I do outsource my WordPress. I do outsource my, website design. I do outsource some of my accounting and things that, could get me into jail. So, I want expertise in all of those categories. But I actually, this is the introvert in me, after a lot of conferences. So the conference where I met you, what I do is I use Evernote, and I have Evernote on my phone, and I take a photograph of all the business cards right then and there when I meet people. And then they're in Evernote. And so when I wasn't sure about the timing, I thought it was 2:30. I actually went to Evernote because I had taken a picture of your card and it was there. I haven't even put it into my database yet. I haven't invited you to LinkedIn yet. We haven't had those connections, but I knew I had your contact information right there. So I do that. It's in Evernote. They store it. It syncs to all of my different devices. And so that's one of the tools that I use. And then down the line, I can go into follow-up connections and that sort of stuff. But I really try and make it as easy as possible right when I first connect with people to have their data points.
And I hope that people heard your first comment was you hand write thank you notes. That is so important today because people don't get it and yours will stand out. So I hope everybody heard that. Now, there's something else that I wanted to ask you about because, as a consultant, I'm sure we all get this. What are some ways to deal with people who want to pick your brain, which is code for getting free consulting?
Excellent question. So what I do in many cases is I will say, here's what I do. I'm happy to give you a 15-minute, discovery call. I don't call it coaching, a conversation with you on the house. And then after that, we can bill. And so I say that in it very quickly into the conversation when they say they want to pick my brain. Now, what often happens is, well, Diane, you said, we should network. And I said, great. Who do you want to meet, and and how can you help me? And I don't do it in a mean way, but I also, because I often work with students who feel very intimidated by me.